What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. Gear up for game day. The opener for the Bills is coming now through October 28th. Every time you use your Tops Bonus Plus card to purchase participating brands like Pepsi, Campbell, Smithfield, and so many more, you're automatically entered for a chance to win hot prizes to elevate your food game. You might also win a jersey every time Buffalo scores a touchdown. For complete details, visit topsmarkets.com/red zone. Today's episode is an awesome interview with Jordan Palmer, quarterback guru and host of the Quarterback Room, the QB Room podcast, which featured an interview with Josh Allen a couple of weeks ago. Jordan and I talk a little bit about his relationship with Josh, how it's evolved over time, and he even had a little something to say about new Bills tight end Dalton Kincaid. You're not going to want to miss that for our interview. Stay tuned. It's coming up right now. What's up, everybody? I have an awesome show for you today. Jordan Palmer, quarterback guru, host of the QB Room podcast that all Buffalo Bills fans should check out, because I believe, Jordan, you now have 2 episodes in the timeline with Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Why don't we start there and take us into this latest conversation with him going into a big year here for the Bills?
Yeah, well, I mean, the show itself, it just kind of was birthed Kyle Allen, who's now a Bill, from us. Not, a lot of times people start a podcast, or they start a show, or they whatever, because, they have a lot of conviction about wanting to do something, right? Or I want to build something big. And for us, it was rare, because there's a billion podcasts out there. It was rare where we go, wait, nobody's actually doing this. Nobody's able to pull off getting all the best guests. And right. I have a background in I've done TV. I didn't do it at a high level because I'm not famous or relevant, but I did ESPN and for a while, and Fox and whatever, and NFL Network. And what I realized is in those production meetings, like, no matter what time of year it is, there's a cutoff. It's like 73, 75, 80% of every show you have to be talking quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so you'd sit in these production meetings with these major networks, and it's like, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you have to talk quarterback. And I was always like, yeah, but no quarterbacks ever want to do these. It's always an obligation to do a podcast, to do a 15-minute phone call interview. And then the more famous they get, the harder they are to get. Mm-hmm. And so we started kind of talking to our buddies, Kyle and I, because one way or another, we kind of know everybody. And so we started this show out of going, nobody always gets the starting quarterbacks. And whether, like, Rogan and Full Send, and it doesn't matter. Like, you can't. And unless it's a friendship thing. And I've been around the quarterbacks my entire life, been a part of the Elite 11 for 25 years. So damn near everybody's gone through that. Mm-hmm. And then Kyle being a current player and being the coolest guy in any room. And so, yeah, so it made sense for us. Last year, we kicked it off with Josh. This year, he was episode 2. Caleb Williams is episode 1. But it's season 2. And we talked a lot of ball last week. Well, we talked a lot with Josh last week. A little bit about ball, a lot about golf, off-season, travel, fun stuff, all the stuff that nobody really gets access to.
One of the really fun parts of that show was, going into the idea of the Netflix documentary, and if he'd want to do quarterback at some point. And you had a cool comment on there about, you almost want him to do it so people can kind of see Josh, like, behind the scenes, like what he's like, how funny he is, because being the guy that he is, this superstar quarterback, I mean, he's in a handful of athletes now that, in terms of superstardom, you don't get to peel back the curtain as much, but you get to see him in that real life form, and he's just one of the guys, right?
I actually, not to like change it, or say you're wrong, I don't think he's one of the dudes. I don't think he's like one of those guys where he's just like, he's a guy's guy and he's super cool. I take football aside. This is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. Like, at any phase, like, go back to middle school, and, Darren Covey was really funny at Miguel Hills Middle School. And then, like, in high school, like, my buddy Ross Resnick, he was hilarious. Like, I go through the light, like, I played football I played football until I was 30. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Regardless of career, whatever. I played football from 4th grade till I was 30. Josh is one of the funniest people I've ever come across. And it's not just the movie quotes. It's just, he's just genuinely And you guys, as a fan base, you know Ryan Fitzpatrick. I played with Ryan Fitzpatrick his second year in the league. It was my rookie year. Like, again, one of the funniest people I've ever been around, and authentic and genuine and all that, right? Not funny because he memorized the joke, funny because the guy's funny as shit. And it just is. And so, yeah, that's what I want people to see. He's not like a nice guy and a good dude. He's a lot more than that. And then when you add in the type of player he is, and the physicality and the toughness, all that stuff, I actually think he's one of one right now. And I'm uniquely positioned to have that opinion because one way or another, I've kind of been around everybody that's playing right now. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I want people to see that and to see just how genuine the relationships are. And I've been hearing about it for years. Now Kyle's there and he's echoing it. And now Shane Michelle's there. He's echoing it. By the way, this is the first time the whole quarterback room is my former draft guys. Okay. Michelle, Kyle, and Josh. So it's pretty cool. But, you got Shane leaving Kansas City, going to Buffalo. And no matter who it is, everyone comes in and says the same thing. They go, this is the most unbelievable culture. Like this, everybody hangs, everybody does stuff together. And that's just, unless you played on other teams, you don't realize that like that's actually not the norm. Mm-hmm. And so, but it starts with him. And I want people to see that. I want people to see how funny he is. And then I just think there's a lot of other just stuff about him that's cool. And I think it'd be rad if people saw it and totally respect his decision to pass if that's what he's doing for now. And also, in there he says, like, I'm not opposed to it in the future. And so I think at some point it would make a lot of sense for him to do it.
No, I think that the concept of the podcast is awesome. And these conversations are so cool because, being in the media and being in front of him and talking to him on a weekly basis, there's a back and forth. There's a dance that you do in the NFL. I mean, you played in the league, you understand that there's only so much you want to kind of pull back the curtain and let people in, especially when you're competing week to week and looking for any kind of advantage. I'm working on a story though, right now, talking to Stephon Diggs this week, Gabe Davis, about what's different about Josh going into this year. And, even Ken Dorsey today mentioned it, that it's not an overwhelming thing. It's just like a subtle thing where it's a level of focus. It's a confidence. It's an ownership of the offense and a comfortability that's allowing him to kind of take that next step. And everybody around him is seeing him. And now, of course, this is an elite quarterback. I mean, how many more steps are there? But as somebody that's super close to him, do you notice that too, going from how last season ended to now going into this year, that there's just this rejuvenation or a different version of him coming into this year?
Yes, but I feel like I don't know that this year's like totally different than any other year, right? He stays busy, and all these guys do. I mean, like, follow Patrick Mahomes on Instagram. Not a lot of couch time. You know what I mean? Not a lot of doing nothing this weekend, right? All the commercials, all the social, all the philanthropy, all that. So these guys all stay busy, right? But I think, when he comes back and he does his thing, he sees family, he golfs, he does all the stuff that probably everybody does, right? But I do think, this year, we sat in my office where I'm at right now, me and him and a bunch of guys, and we watched Patrick Mahomes win the Super Bowl. And so I think that there's just a level of whatever you had on the table that wasn't there, Pat winning another one, Kyle coming, I think is a bigger help. I think Bill's Mafia will see that over time, that like, it's not something that shows up on a stat sheet, but I think Kyle being a smart, savvy backup, who's also very, very close, I think that's going to end up being a value add over time. But yeah, I think he's completely locked in, and I'm hearing amazing things about how it's gone this offseason out in Buffalo. But at the same time, I feel like every year he's commits himself, and what's what the franchise guys have to do. You got to recommit yourself. It's a long year. You're banged up, you're beat up emotionally. There's things that have happened. You got to reset. And so I think this year, but I think the last few years he has as well, he's just got himself to the right frame of mind, and there's no contract stuff. There's no, you know what I mean? It's just like, you can just focus and go ahead. And there's always drama. There's always team stuff. This offseason it was the Diggs thing. Next offseason it'll be another thing. That's what playing franchise quarterback is. You're a problem solver. You're putting out fires. You lost Dable last offseason. This offseason it was, whatever's going on. Next offseason will be something different. So I think that's what the great ones do, is they're able to solve problems in real time, and then reset and recommit themselves every offseason. And you saw on quarterback Kirk Cousins say, you got to be a little sick to do this, because you're getting hammered all day on Sunday, and then you got to get up and do it like 20 more times. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And from a preparation standpoint, the part that fans don't get is like, go back to like finals in college, like whatever the most crucial, like I gotta pass these classes. That's every single Sunday in the league. Mm-hmm. Just from a mental perspective, learning that much new stuff, memorizing this many different things, understanding this many different options of what they can do and then what we can do, plus the situational awareness, plus there's a little sand that's running out at the end of each play in a shot clock. And then there's also one going for the game clock too. And there's just all this stuff happening around you. Every week's finals week. And so there's the emotional and the mental side of it too, that's taxing on guys. But with Josh, and I've always said this, you know, I've made the comment that I think he's the best athlete to ever play the position. But a lot of quarterbacks who played with him have also said they think that he's one of the, or the smartest quarterback they've been in a room with.
Oh, I mean, you see it. I mean, the operational, the way that he's able to kind of ad lib even still, like, I think there's a certain type of athletic football IQ that comes with, I mean, you can speak to it better than I can, what he does off schedule. Like, everybody sees like the stuff, like the improvisation. I go back to the one play, I think he's done it 2 or 3 times on the right sideline, where he's kind of evades the pocket, trying to buy his time, and the entire defense is kind of shifting this way, and he waits for, I think it was Gabe Davis on the one play, to kind of float back to the left and throw the ball right before he steps out of bounds. It's just the just situational understanding of the game. Has he always had that? Like, is that when you got him to start, did you see little pieces of that, or is that something that's kind of grown too?
Yeah, I think he's always just seen the field really, really well. And, you know, people talk about, and he's talked about like this videographic memory, and he sees things, and that's why he remembers every movie, and that's why he does 100 handshakes. But I think he's just seen the field well, and that's been echoed from other guys that have been in the room. Barkley over the years, Case Keenum was telling me that last year. Kyle's confirming that now. It's just like the way he sees the field, how quickly he sees it. And I think like the really elite ones do. I always felt, you know, I backed up my brother, and at the time he was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. We were top 3 or 4 offense every year. Mm-hmm. So he's playing at a really high level, right? All pro level. And we were running the same offense. You know, he's 4 years older than me. He had a better arm. He's better than me and all that. But like, I'm running the same offense. I'm seeing the same thing. I'm standing behind him in practice. He's running the play, and he's seeing stuff I don't see. And I have that play memorized, and I know what coverage it was too. You know what I mean? And I know who's running what. Like we understand the same information, and we're watching it and we're seeing it differently. Mm-hmm. And so and then I backed up some other great ones too. And I think Josh has that ability to see the field. And so that plays out in terms of going through progressions quickly. That also plays out when you're ad-libbing, you know, and you're seeing this happen, but you're feeling that happen. And that one, you don't get to practice a ton.
All right, everybody, we're cruising on the Shout Insiders text line, and you can join all of the fun, the back and forth with myself, Ryan Talbot. All you got to do is text 716-528-6727 to become a Shout Insider today. The Shout text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Beyer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give him a call at 716-852-1234 or check out litrolaw.com. How much has your QB coach, mentor, student relationship evolved as, and you might have been asked this before, but I'm just super curious about it. From the time you started working with him back when he was, you know, before he was drafted, to now, when you have a quarterback that grows into what he's become, how has that changed? Like when you guys get out on the field, like, is there anything different about how you interact, about how you try to help him?
Yeah, absolutely. It evolves every year. So I go back to that COVID year. There was no off season. That was his jump. Mm-hmm. Right, from 2 to 3, second to the third year. There was no off season. They were on Zoom like 2 hours a day or whatever. And so it was me, him, Kyle Allen, and Sam Darnold and a handful of high school kids catching balls, really for 7.5 months, because we started throwing that year in like February, maybe March, I don't remember. We went till the end of July. There was no buffalo, and so nobody was there. And so that, going from like thinking back to that off season, which was pretty much throwing mechanics, because we still struggled to control the ball with touch, and the accuracy and shallow crosses and in breaking routes and layering the ball was a huge point of emphasis, and really where the misses were. I remember people saying in the media, and people said a lot of things about him, but like his rookie year, like, what's the point of having a huge arm if you can't complete a deep ball? I mean, if you remember back to his rookie year, it was, deep balls were a struggle. And now Kelvin Benjamin's your number one, right? That he wasn't throwing to digs, he wasn't, right? But still, I mean, a miss is a miss. And so like that off season was just so much. I help at that phase. I try and help guys own their stroke. And so, like, do you golf at all?
Yeah.
Like, what's your if you go play tomorrow, what are you gonna shoot?
Probably like 89.
Cool. So if you go shoot an 89 and your first 3 tee shots you fade right, at some point, what are you gonna start doing to fix that?
Shifting my body.
You're gonna aim left, right? Yeah. If you're fading it today and you're one of those days, like, you're gonna start aiming left, right? You're gonna play the fade. But that's not what John Rahm does. John Rahm misses one right. He knows exactly why he missed it and exactly what he needs to do to be able to make that change. He is not going to start aiming right. But he also doesn't shoot 89, right? I'm a golfer too, so I'm preaching the choir here. And so what happens is a lot of quarterbacks, when they don't own their stroke, they don't know what they're actually trying to do physiologically, what leverage they're creating, what lines of tension they're trying to load. When you don't understand that, and that's not taught in high school or college, or the pros, by the way, that's taught by private guys right now. And so when you don't know, and let's say Josh would overthrow a deep ball, well, then what would you do? You'd short arm it. You take something off of it. Well, now it doesn't spin. Right now, it's a little bit of a guess, right? So that off season was so much about owning your stroke, and one, being able to do it correctly. So I have like a process with learning anything new physically. One, we need to execute the pattern correctly. Okay, so execute it correctly. Then we add resistance to strengthen that movement. Then we add tempo. Okay, pick it up now, speed it up a little bit. Okay, and then we turn it into a reactionary exercise. So I'm reacting and then having to do it. So I've removed the ability to think about what I'm going to do. I got to react. And so if you just jump right to the reaction one, then you don't actually understand what you're doing here. And so that 7 months or whatever it was, to slow it down, and just let's play catch for an hour and a half and hit the same spot and feel different things. Then the next offseason, then he has his breakout years, third year. The next offseason was, okay, now let's get back to a great platform. Okay, the next offseason. And so it's just built on it, where now it's less mechanics and more other stuff. And that's more, private conversations about things that I can do to help guys.
No, it's really cool. Last one before we wrap up here and maybe talk about some of the plans that you have for quarterback room this season. Dalton Kincaid coming to Buffalo. I mean, there's so much excitement within the fan base. You could sense the excitement, amongst the players and the coaches. From your perspective, how important is that piece, and how important has it been that it's been missing maybe that, middle of the field, short and intermediate area target that they're maybe hoping that he can kind of become, a la Cole Beasley a couple years ago?
Yeah, I think what one thing is that stood out to me. So I've been working with Cam Rising for a few years, the Utah quarterback. Okay, and I work with Utah right now. They're a client of mine, and so I spend a lot of time in Utah. Go out there a lot, and they're rolling, by the way. And one thing that stood out to me is the strength coach, who's been there forever, told me that Dalton Kincaid, pound for pound, is the most fluid combination of fluidity and explosion. He's the most fluid and explosive athlete they've had there, and he's been there forever. The head coach has been there for like 18 years. Offensive coordinator's been there for like 13 years. Strength coach has been there for like 15 years. Think about how many athletes come through Utah. There's a lot of Polynesians, right? Who are I grew up in a heavy Polynesian community in South Orange County. I mean, half my team is Polynesians. Those are some very explosive, very fluid athletes as a subset of, as a culture and a subset of people, right? they've had a lot of first and second round picks out of Utah, a lot of DBs out of there, a lot of linebackers out of there, all that. So that was a strong statement by a guy who's kind of got no BS, right? So that originally was what I heard about Dalton going into last year. And then watching all this tape and working with Cam and then working with Dalton and seeing it. And I think what's really cool about Dalton is he doesn't look, just like Kelsey, he doesn't look super explosive. It's not like he's pumping his arms like crazy and he's, you know what I mean? But when you throw him an out route and you put it 3 yards too far outside and he just smooths his way out there and then catches it right here, you see the explosion and the fluidity when he changes direction. And so there's 2 things that are exciting about that. One is for obvious reasons, like you can throw him open because he has the ability to accelerate through the catch. And usually it's little fast guys like Steph Diggs. If you overthrow him on a deep ball, he has the ability to, there's another year, right? And I played with some guys who had that. Ironically, I played with Chris Henry, rest in peace, who if you overthrew him by 7 or 8 yards, he put his head down and all of a sudden you catch it behind him. Wow. But Chad Ochocinco did not have that. He was not an extra gear down the field guy. He wasn't a deep ball guy like some of these other guys. Randy Moss had that. Not that many tight ends have that, right? So one, that's exciting about Dalton is you throw him open, okay? So what might look covered when the ball leaves my hand, when you develop that feel and that touch and trust that I can put it out there, you then over time, completion, targets, completion, all that stuff goes up. The second thing is you can play a long time with that. Because if you look at like Jason Witten at the end of his career, Tony Gonzalez at the end of his career, we'll say this about Travis Kelce for the next 6 years, is they'll be running 5.140s and still be effective. I mean, Jason Witten at the end of his career was running like like he would catch a ball in the seam and linebackers would catch him every time. But he still have 100 catches a year. Because it played like that style of carry speed through my break, change of direction, fluidity, injury-wise, concussions, all that stuff's different, but you can play forever at tight end because you don't have to win with speed if you have feel, angle, situational awareness, spatial awareness, all those things. So I think Dalton's going to be a great rookie. I think Dalton's going to play until he doesn't want to play anymore at a very high level. And those are 2 really exciting things about Buffalo. And if you think, look what Brandon Beane's done, the players they want to keep are there. You know what I mean? He figures it out. And so, key pieces that they need to have in place there are going to be in place there. And so I'm really, really bullish on Dalton Kincaid. And then he's played big games too. So the moment's not going to be too big. And there's just a peace of mind and a comfortability that comes with playing with a guy like Josh, where everything is actually always fun. And you are, you know what I mean? It is a low stress, low pressure environment, even in that huddle on third down, because there's so much like playfulness and fun. And then, all right, here we go. And I think that's really helpful for young guys to step into big moment Super Bowl teams and play well, is when you can eliminate, the extra anxiety that comes with a stressful huddle or a stressful work day or a lot of pressure from the staff and from the coaching staff and from the quarterback. And that's not what it is in Buffalo. And so I'm bullish on Dalton.
Awesome stuff.
I love all the overs on him.
All right. Some good intel at the end of this thing. Now a quick word from our sponsor, Tops Friendly Markets, ready to serve fan favorite. Let Tops do the cooking and you'll be the MVP. It's perfect for game day or any day. Visit Tops Carryout Cafe. Hot to go, fresh large cheese and pepperoni pizza, $15. Jumbo chicken wings, 10 count, $14. The legendary Tops Breakfast Pizza. Get yourself a large for $20. Pizza or taco logs, 6 count, $8.49. Baby back rib sections, $5.99 a pound. Sub, sandwiches, wraps, apps, sides, and so much more. Visit topsmarkets.com/red zone for the complete menu of ready-to-enjoy fan favorites. So QB room this season, you got the Josh episode up. You mentioned Caleb. I saw Jared Goff. I'll be interested to listen to that one.
Jared Goff is so far Kyle and I's favorite interview we've ever done.
And we've really?
Done some guys, yeah.
Okay. A little preview. What's good about it?
Goff is, I said this in the beginning, I said if you were to go around to all the starting quarterbacks or relevant guys in the NFL and you were to have them list their favorite dudes to kick it with, people don't realize Jared Goff is like closet, like really high on everybody's list. Like everybody loves Goff.
Okay.
Just the fan base doesn't know him. He doesn't care about social media. He doesn't put himself out there. doesn't really care if you think that or not, but low key, like everybody loves Goff, and I've known him since high school.
That's really cool. What else do you have planned for the season? Anything, or do you kind of just like take it as it comes and kind of put it together on the fly?
Yeah, we've got commitments from every big name,
Wow.
from Aaron and Pat, everybody on down. So I think we got Trevor this week coming up,
Nice.
and we'll go from there. And as college picks up, then we'll start adding in some more of the college guys. We started off with Caleb Williams in episode 1, which is a fascinating conversation. But yeah, I mean, these aren't interviews. These are the QB room, just like we got feet on the desk, kicking it, talking. And so guys are a lot more candid. They drop F-bombs. We talk about what they do in the off season. We talk about partying. We talk about it, we talk about what quarterbacks talk about in the room. And so, yeah, it's just, it's a way more low key. We do get into ball a little bit, but it's just an opportunity for, like, if you're a Lions fan, you're crazy if you don't watch that episode. If you're part of Bill's Mafia and you haven't seen both these interviews, you missed out on an opportunity to learn more about the guy.
Jordan Palmer, awesome stuff. Thanks for the time, my man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.